Hey there, good evening. It is Kari Munson. I just wanted to come live tonight to continue my series on what happens when results don't come. And tonight I want to talk about, well, it's actually the first thing. I'm calling it part two, but it's really not. It's part one. Um, and it's really all about feeling. I know for me, a quote that I put in the post from Brene Brown kind of sums it up. We cannot selectively numb emotions. When we numb the painful emotions, we also numb the positive emotions. And that is from her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. So it's a book that I highly recommend. And I have some things I'll talk about later this week that fall in line with that book. Anyway, tonight, when it comes to the first step for me, sometimes when you hit that wall and you know things just aren't working and they aren't working the way that you want them to work, you aren't getting the results that you want, it is so frustrating. But I know for me, if I try and numb that, if I try and pretend that that's not happening, all that does is it makes it worse. For me, it just festers and really makes that emotion grow to a point that is really not healthy. And, I did that for so many years, and that's how I got to where I was in my health with, being 220 pounds and not feeling great, felt terrible, didn't feel good about myself, all of those things. And so I know that doesn't work for me. What does work for me is sometimes I just need to cry and scream and just be frustrated and have a moment and have my, tantrum, if you will. And that kind of works for me. Like I need to throw in the towel for a minute and just say, I'm done. I'm done with this stupid journey. I'm done trying to make it work. And just getting through that tough emotion and throwing it out there, even though it's not true, and denying, in that moment, all of the progress that has happened because you're so mad and frustrated. That's what works for me. I just throw in the towel. I have my moment so I can get all of that irrational bull out of my head and then actually have a rational sit down with myself to evaluate what actually has happened, what is working, what is not, so I can make a plan. The other thing that I do, which I think is really, really important, is I don't do it alone. I don't do it alone. You have that moment where all that progress that you've made somehow no longer exists in your brain, and you just, like, nothing, all of that frustration just takes over. And for me, I can't hold that in because it just makes it stronger. So I need to let that out. I need to have my pity party. But the thing is, I don't live there. I will not live there because that is a very unhealthy place to live. So I don't do it alone. I have a conversation with people that I trust. It depends on the situation and depends on who's around and whatever. But, there are multiple people on that list that I know that I can call and say all the bull that they know isn't true, that I know isn't true, and just cry it out and have that moment. And then move on. Have that moment, say, screw this, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm tired of the fight. And then get through that emotion, have my pity party, and move on to where I can be constructive, to where I can then move on into evaluating what's really going on and, how do I really feel? And, there are some things that you do give up because it's not serving you, but not just because you're not getting what you want. So that's my story of how I handle not getting the results, which it is what it is. It is what it is. It works for me. I have my moment, take a deep breath, and move on and come back the next day with a fresh mind, fresh perspective, and I've gotten rid of all of the yuck that's been festering in my mind that may or may not have any truth to it. Get rid of all that yuck to leave room for all the good stuff and to move on in a positive manner and to move on constructively with a good plan in place. So I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit tomorrow, and I hope you have a great night. Thanks for joining me.